Hello and welcome. My name is Kessie Wegbe. Today's tutorial will be on how to make a blonde fringe wig. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm using my wig cap and I have a candle. So the first thing I want to do is I have to draw the patterns that I'll be sewing my weave on. Because I'm using a sewing machine, I need to have my patterns so that I sew directly on that line. I have another video that I explained how the patterns go by, but you can just look at what I'm doing. It's really easy, and you can see I'm giving it as much space as I can so that I don't exhaust my hair at the back, and then in the front I make it a bit closer and I just have a pattern that I go by. I have another video, you can watch that. I explained it better in that video. Once I am done drawing the patterns, it's time for me to start sewing. This is how the pattern looks like. Like I said earlier, I need this so that I can know the lines where my weave is going to go across and everything. So I'm using my sewing machine. It's an electric machine, actually like a zigzag machine. I'm using my thread, and the first thing I will do is to just set it up, put in the thread into the needle and make sure everything is ready, and then I'll start sewing. I have another video that would explain in details how to fix your thread through the machine and everything. So I'm pulling the hair out of the pack. I'm using this darling hair, and you can see it came in looking like a bob. So the first thing I did is I cut it on both sides. I did not unravel it before cutting it. I made sure I cut it the way it was on the pack, and then I opened it up. Now with this way, when I pick up every weave, is going to have the same pattern, which is like the bob pattern, so that by the time I'm done with the hair, it's not going to be, some side are not going to be flipped out and some side flipped in. That's why I always do that. So now I want to start sewing, and I'll just start sewing from the first line at the back. And to do this at the beginning, once I sew, I'm going to make sure it's tight, and I'll press that button there just make sure it's tight. Although maybe I'll do another video where I'll show you in real details how to use the machine, how to sew and all that. You can see I'm using my candle to apply. I'm just like laying that candle on the weft. The reason being that when you are sewing, when you're using about 2 hair, it becomes so thick, and sometimes the needle might not be able to go through it. So you might want to apply the candle to make it easy for the machine needle to run through the weave. Okay, so this part is just easy because I just keep sewing from one end to the other. It's just the same thing I'm doing, sewing from one end to the other. I'm making sure that my hair is facing the bob way, so that everything is just laid when I'm done. Okay, so I'm pretty much just doing the same thing, and I don't need to talk much on this. You can just watch and see what I do. So I just kept sewing, and at this point I ran out of thread, and I have to just put that in my just thread my railings again, and I'll just continue sewing. Also, when you are sewing, you want to make sure that you sew from one end of the cap to the other end of the cap. It doesn't matter if your weave is exhausted before you get to the end of the cap. You have to cut that small additional weave to ensure that you sew to the end of your cap, because sometimes you will get tired and you just be like, okay, I could leave that, but please don't. Make sure every end of the cap is covered, and make sure you follow the lines, okay? And as you sew, you find out that your candle lines might begin to clean off. When it does, you have to put it back on the mannequin or canvas and redraw the lines so that they can be visible, because if you're not following the lines, you just find out that you think you're sewing straight, but when you bring it out, it's something else. So please make sure you do that. So now I'm done with the back, and I'm onto the front, and I can see that the lines are almost like all wiped out or kind of not looking sharp anymore. So I pick my candle up, put it on the mannequin, and redraw the lines. That's what I just did. And when I do that, it's easy for me to see the lines again. So I'll start from the front and start sewing, just following the patterns. If you can get the patterns, it's easy. Watch my other video, you can get a good screenshot of how the patterns look like. Even if you're sewing by hand and you're a first timer, like, you can just follow that pattern, and trust me, your wig will come out looking very good. Okay, but I don't do that when I'm sewing by hand. I just like, I'm so used to it that I know how to just sew it. But for if you're not really good at making fringe wig all the time, just follow the patterns and start sewing. It's going to be really easy for you, and you eventually have that bob fringe style looking perfect. So I'll just continue sewing, following my it's so easy. It's so easy because you just follow the patterns and you're good to go. So it's not as hard as when you don't have like a direction you're following. So it's really easy when you have the layout of how the weaves will go. So once you have that, it's okay, it's easy, and you'll be done in before you know it. So I'm getting close to the end, and I just want to talk on this part. This is what I do. I'll pick two weaves, or about two or three. You can make it four, let's say four. And I'll look at the direction that the hair is going to go by. Okay, it's supposed to go by bob on both sides. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll lay one side bob and two sides bob, and the other two sides flipped, so that by the time I sew on that line and I open it, it will flip over and both sides will be bob. I hope you get that. And that's what I do. Okay, I hope you understand that. Two sides bob, two sides flipped over, then you put it on each other, sew it. Then when you're done, we're going to open it up, which I'll show you eventually when I'm done. So now I'm just sewing across that line, and now I am done sewing this hair. What I'm left with now is styling it and actually cutting the bangs. Okay, so you can see I opened it up and now they both look like bob. Okay, now we have I'm using my candle to open this up. Sorry, not candle. I'm using my needle to open this up. And then I take like just some shea butter and apply it right in the middle there, because I'll be using heat on that part to make sure everything is flat and no strand is standing. But I won't heat up my I won't heat it up for a long time, because I don't want, this hair is synthetic hair, I don't want it to like just dry out and everything. I just heat it for a while, maybe about 2 minutes, and I switch it off. So you can see it is flat because it's not so hot, and I applied shea butter on it. Okay, so when I'm done doing that, ensuring that the middle is flat and everything is just like laid, which it is right now, I'll comb everything out again, make sure every part of the hair is facing the right direction that it should be facing. Okay, if you feel like your bang is not full enough, what I'm holding is not full enough, you can add to it. Let me just tell you what I'm doing right now. So I'm trying to cut the bang, and what I do when I'm trying to cut the fringe is I look at the two eyes of the mannequin. That is where I pull out my fringe from. If you can see, one is on one eye, the other side is from the other eyes. So when I do it that way, my fringe is kind of just perfect. It's not too wide or too tiny in the middle. That is how I've been doing this for a long time. Okay, so when I do that, then I hold it to the nose of the mannequin or below the nose. I twist it and I cut it with my scissors. It's just easy. That's how I do it. If the wig is not for someone that is, you know, very tall, you can go like a little bit above the nose. But if the person wearing it is a tall person and with a long face, you can go on the nose or below the nose. And even if the fringe is too long, the person should wear and you see it before you cut again. So like I always say, it's better for your fringe to be too long than for your fringe to be too short. It's really, there's no solution at that point. But if it is too long, you can still go back and trim it. That's better than when it's too short. So that is how I made my fringe. You can see this is how it looks. This is the final look, and that's just how I made it. So thank you guys for watching. See you in my next tutorial. Bye bye.